Hi everyone, it's Erin from the Provincial Farmhouse. In today's video, we're doing some Christmas decor. For today's project, I'm going to be using these 3 sweet little birds that I picked up online. I'll be sure to link them in the description, and 3 of these little pots here that I picked up from IKEA. I'm going to take some of my air dry clay and I'm going to push it into the pot itself. So this is going to do 2 things. It's going to make it heavy enough so that it doesn't knock over really easy, but it's also going to be a base on top of which I'm going to be putting molds, and also our little bird is going to sit on as well. So I'm just going to keep adding it until I'm happy with how the little bird is going to sit in that little pot. Once I have all of the pots organized, I'm going to use Paint Couture's primer in white, and I'm going to be applying that using a sponge. So I'm just going to dab that on all around the outside and a little bit on the inside just to where the clay is. I'm going to do 2 coats of this. It's going to make our slick surface paintable. Just a reminder that you can find a full product list in the description below, and most of these products on our website, theprovincialfarmhouse.com.au. I'll set those pots off to the side to dry, and now I'm going to be applying 2 coats of the same primer to each of the little birds. Next, I'm going to be using IOD's Oh Christmas Tree mold. This was from their holiday release this year. I'm just working some dust air dry clay into the mold, just using my thumb to push out the excess. Then I will flex the mold and carefully pull it out. This has a left and a right hand side. I'm going to be casting both of them. I want to arrange it so that it's sitting in the pot, almost like it's some greenery that was there before the little bird decided to make a nest in there. So I'm just going to continue to make that particular casting so that I can pull it apart and arrange it the way that I want it to look. I really envision that greenery sort of hanging over the side, draping over the side. You're not going to be able to see much of this because I am going to be adding some snow to the center part where the little bird is going to sit, but I definitely want to be able to see it draping over the sides. Once I've worked out the greenery, I'm going to grab my Harper Decor mold by IOD. I'm just going to dust it with cornstarch, and I'm going to be casting the letters J-O-Y for the word joy. So I'm going to be having 1 of these letters on each of the pots. So I'm just working that clay in, then flexing the mold and carefully pulling it out. If you have trouble with this, you could do resin, or you could pop your mold in the freezer after you put the clay in for about 10 to 15 minutes. It does make getting them out a little bit easier. Once I'm finished casting all of my greenery and my letters for each of the pots, I'm going to start gluing everything down. I'm using my Sealy's Quickset wood glue, applying it to the back of the castings and also to the pot itself, and then gently pressing them down. Definitely be careful when you're doing this so that you don't damage any of the details. At this point, I decided I wanted to add 1 more element, so I'm just going to cast this design here. It's sort of like a swag design. There's some little pine cones on it. I'll be sure to link it in the description below. I'm just using my thumbs to push out the excess, and then I'm flexing the mold and pulling out that little swag design. I'm then adding some glue to the back, and I'm going to be positioning this above the letter on the front, and I'm also going to have a little bit of that clay poking up the top there so that it just gives us a little bit more interest. And I'm just going to continue gluing all of my pieces on until each of my little pots are finished. The next day, I'm going to come in with Paint Couture's Farmhouse Linen chalk paint, and I am going to be painting just the base of the pot and obviously over the top of the letter. I don't need any of this to go on the greenery. We're going to be coming in with a green paint shortly to do that. It's going to take 2 coats of this Farmhouse Linen to get the coverage that I want. I'm also going to be applying the same paint on each of those little birds, and again, it'll take 2 coats to get the finish that I want. Once the farmhouse linen paint is dry, I'm going to come in with the basil chalk paint by Paint Couture, and I'm just going to be applying it to the greenery that we added on the top section of the pot. I'm just using a small artist brush here to go in and get all of those details. I'm not too worried if I get a little bit on the white paint. We're going to be doing some antiquing a little bit later, so that will definitely hide any imperfections there. You could always seal in between coats, which is usually what I do if this really bothers you and you're worried about getting a lot of paint on that white section. So I'm just going to continue adding that green until I have all of the greenery that we cast painted. Once each of the pots are completely dry, I'm going to take Paint Couture's Extreme Guard in Satin, and I am going to be painting our sweet little bird, giving that a top coat there, and then I am also going to move on to adding that satin top coat to each of the pots. When the clear coat is dry, I'm going to take Paint Couture's Van Dyke Brown Glaze, and I'm going to first start with adding it to the little pine cones that is in that swag casting that we added. I'm just going to be adding it to those details, and then I'm going to take a baby wipe and I'm going to wipe back some of the excess, and I will be repeating that same process for each of the little pots. I then took the same glaze and I'm putting it over the top of each of our little birds. I'm particularly working it into the details, and then once I'm happy with that coverage, I'm going to do very similar to what we did with the pine cones. I'm going to take a baby wipe and I'm going to wipe back the excess so that it just sticks around those beautiful feathers and any of those details. If you don't have access to this glaze, you could use a brown paint wash instead, or perhaps a brown wax. I'm going to repeat the same process on each of the little birds, and then I'm going to go back to my pots. I'm just going to add that same Van Dyke Brown glaze to the base of each of the pots, paying particular attention to around the letters that we added. I really want this to have a vintage worn feel, like these are little pots that have been in the garden for years. They've gotten rusted and weathered. I'm just applying that glaze, and then I'm going to take a wet wipe and I'm going to start pulling back that excess. And you can see here that I do have a little raised element on that pot. That's okay, that will be hidden a little bit later. We're going to be adding some fake snow, so I'm not worried about that. Any areas that are tricky to get to, I'm going to take a little Q-tip and use that instead. I then took a paintbrush. This is the brush we used with the farmhouse linen. I've pulled off the excess on a paper towel, and now I'm doing a little bit of dry brushing over the greenery. I want this to have a little bit more of a frosted look. When that's dry, I'm going to take Paint Couture's Crust Texture Medium. I'm going to put some of that into a container using a palette knife. I'm then going to take Angelic Mineral Paint by Paint Couture. I'm going to drop a few drops of paint on top of that crust medium, and I'm going to stir it well. You can tint this product. We want it to look like snow. I'm then going to scrape up some of that, and using my palette knife, I'm going to go over the top of that detail that I talked about before, that little raised detail. You're not even going to be able to see it now. So I'm just going to go around the base of the pot first, just randomly adding that snow here and there where I think it would look like it's sort of piled up or gathered and collected after a snow. And then I am going to be turning my attention to the top of the pot, and I'm going to start putting quite a bit of that product in the center. So our little bird's going to sit in the center, but I want it to look like the snow has sort of piled up and then the little bird's just sitting on that snow. So I'm sort of applying it, and then I'm also doing a dabbing motion on top of it to give it a little bit of a raised peak to make it look more like snow. So I'm just going to continue adding that product until I'm happy with that. And then I'm going to take my hot glue gun, add a little bit of glue on the section that I don't have that crust medium, and then I'm going to press my little bird down. Once I had the little bird glued down, I did add a little bit more of that crust medium around the base just to hide the hot glue and make it look more like the little birds in amongst that snow. I then took some of Paint Couture's Bronze Luxe Metallic, and with a small artist brush, I'm just going to be going over the top of our letters that we put there to spell out the word joy. If I've inspired you to try any of these Paint Couture products, I would really appreciate it if you would use my affiliate link. I will pop it in the description and on the screen. Right now, Paint Couture is having a 20% off sale until Christmas, so make sure you use my link and my code FARMHOUSE20 to grab your discount. Once I'm finished adding the bronze to the letters, I turned my paintbrush upside down, and now I'm just using the end of the brush, dipping it into the bronze, and I'm just going to add a few little dots here and there. That swag mold has some little berries. They're a little bit tricky to see. I want this to look a little bit like Christmas lights or little baubles, just a hint of something special in amongst that greenery. And then I took a little bit more of that bronze paint on my artist brush, and I'm going to go over the end of our little bird's beak. And then I did also use what was left on my brush, and I just hit the details of the bird, the wings, the tail, just for a hint of bronze shine there. I also added a little bit of that bronze to the bird's eyes as well. Next, I'm going to use Paint Couture's Champagne Metallic Glaze, and I'm just going to go over the top of the greenery. I wanted to give this a little bit more of an icy, frosted look over the top of the dry brushing we already did. This is going to be very subtle, but very effective. When that was dry, I took some of my Satin Extreme Guard top coat, and I'm just dabbing some of that product over the top of our snow up the top there. I want to add some of Paint Couture's beautiful Sheer Frost German Glass Glitter. This is such a beautiful product. I'm just going to take the end of a plastic spoon then, and I'm going to sprinkle some of that glitter over the top of our wet top coat. That's going to allow the glitter to stick and stay there. We don't have this product yet in Australia, unfortunately. Fingers crossed we'll get it next year. I'm going to add a little bit more of that top coat to the base as well, and then once I have the amount that I want, I'm going to dab a little bit more of that glitter over the top of our wet top coat. If you are in the US, remember you can grab this beautiful glitter via my affiliate link in the description. And here's a look at our finished Christmas birds. I love how these turned out. That German glass glitter is a bit tricky to see on film, but it is just the most beautiful subtle shine. That snow, everything just works really well together. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. If you enjoyed today's video, I would really appreciate it if you would hit that like button, comment, and share it out. If you haven't already, I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of our videos. You can find the products used today on our website, theprovincialfarmhouse.com.au. Thanks for watching.